Good morning everyone, welcome to Geoscience Point channel. Today we will discuss the rise of nationalism in Europe. This is the first chapter of our class 10 syllabus, history. This is the rise of nationalism in Europe. There is totally 6 topics in this chapter we have to read. That is, now today we will read about only just the 3 topics of this chapter. That is the French Revolution and the idea of nation state, making of nationalism in Europe, and the third one is age of industrialization. So these are the main 3 topics of today. Up next there are more 3 topics. These are the topics are unification of Germany and Italy, visualizing the nation, and nationalism and imperialism. So these are the main topics of this chapter. Throughout these topics we will complete the rise of nationalism in Europe. So what is nationalism and what about the rising of nationalism? What is nationalism? Nationalism is a concept. It is a love towards the nation for its own spirituality and its own identity. That means it is the love towards the nation for its own spirituality and identity. So this concept, only this word has been elaborated in this chapter throughout the aspects of different countries like Europe, European countries throughout this chapter. First one, the French Revolution and the idea of nation state. So what is the idea of nation state? From the very beginning we will start our chapter with the paintings of Frederick Soriot, who painted a drawing as an allegory. What means? That means allegory of nation state. A painting drawn by whom? Who draw the painting? Frederick Soriot. In his painting, he wanted to represent that peoples were awakening, peoples were gathering to establish their own nation, to establish their own country with an allegory of a motherland. And after this very beginning, this chapter is introducing with the concept of French Revolution. French Revolution, when did it occur? French Revolution, it occurred in 1789. It occurred in 1789, and in 1799, when the 16th Louis, the dynasty of 16th Louis was totally destroyed and new concept was established by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1789. In 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte established his kingdom, his own state. What was the concept of the French Revolution and the idea of nation state? So in 1789, when the French Revolution occurred, many changes were occurred through this revolution. The first one is la-patri and la-citoyen, emphasized united community and equal rights. That means, what are the concepts? La-patri and la-citoyen. La-patri and la-citoyen. It's a French word. La-patri. La-patri means fatherland, and la-citoyen means citizenship. La-patri refers to fatherland, la-citoyen means citizenship. That means they wanted their own land with the community, with the establishment of citizens awakening and citizens' duty. Second one is power transferred from monarchs to common people. The power was transferred from monarchs to common people. Introduced a new flag with the assembling different communities people. They introduced their own flag. They introduced their own national anthem. They introduced their own, they took an oath to establish their own nation state. That means they stood awake for awakening themselves, and they established their own country, their own matter, which was established. They tried to establish their nation state. They set up a new foot to establish a nation state. Then what were the main points? The main points are, French became the main language. French became a main language. French language introduced new flag, took an oath, State generals, which was the main power of the France, which was elected by common people. This was a very important point. State general elected by common people. These are the basic points of this French Revolution and its surroundings. Custom duties were abolished and the idea of nationalism was taken. Custom duties abolished. So this happened in French Revolution and the idea of nation state. But what happened later when Napoleon took his own administration in 1799? He imposed 1804, the Civil Code of Napoleon. In 1804, Civil Code of Napoleon. It has so many good effects and bad effects. Civil Code of Napoleon. What are the good effects of Civil Code of Napoleon? It's a very important question for board exam. Civil Code of Napoleon, it imposed equality before law, right to property, feudal system was abolished, freed peasants and from serfdom, restrictions removed, and transport communication systems was improved. Huge improvement was occurred by him of transport and communication system. And what were the bad effects of Civil Code of Napoleon in 1804? The bad effects were that he increased tax system. Censorship imposed. What is censorship? Very important part. Censorship any kind of publication, maybe books, maybe films, any kind of publications which the state thinks that it will be opposite, it is opposing me, then the states can ban the publication or news. That is censorship. अगर कोई भी चीज, कोई भी न्यूज अगर स्टेट के खिलाफ जाए तो वो स्टेट कभी भी किसी भी वक्त बैन कर सकता है. इसी को सेंसरशिप कहते हैं, जो कि नेपोलियन ने लागू किए थे 1804 में. सेंसरशिप. क्लियर? सो दिस वाज द मेन फैक्ट during French Revolution and the idea of nation state which was implemented by the French common people and later by the Napoleon. Now come to the topic number 2, making of nationalism. Making of nationalism in Europe. So what happened in this matter? After 1815, after the defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte in the Battle of Waterloo against the Alliance power, a new society was born in France, that is aristocracy and peasantry. Apart from these two, these two community was already existed in the France, but the new community was the middle class. New middle class community was emerged in France. So aristocracy, who belonged to aristocrat family, those who had or who were capable to live their life in a well-being, in a good manner, in a high status, they are called aristocracy. Those who were related to kings, those who were related to the leader. And the second community was peasantry. Peasantry means all the labor family, labor class. Labor. They belong to only labor. They belong to farmer. That means those who took the workloads without any kinds of remuneration or a very short remuneration. They were labor or peasantry. So these two societies were continuing the system, the social system, but with the help of science and technology, when developed throughout the world, the new middle class society was evolved. That means who belong to this society? Doctor, teacher. They belong to new middle class society. And they were the liberals. They were the liberals. And these two, the aristocrats and the peasantry, these two community were called the conservatives. That means they wanted to keep their own dynasty like this way. They wanted to keep their administration like this way, whatever they wanted, because they had their profit in this type of system. But new middle class society, those who had no electing power, those who had no such a kind of priority in society, they belong to liberals. So these two different communities were born in this system after 1815. And 1815, the aristocracy signed the Treaty of Vienna. It's a very important for all of you. When it was signed, Treaty of Vienna in 1815, there is a formula among which country it was signed, among the ABP. That means all of you know ABP news. ABP means Austria, Britain and Prussia. Austria, Britain, Prussia. Can you remind? ABP. It was signed among ABP, Austria, Britain and Prussia, to control France, by the help of aristocracy, by the help of aristocrat community. But the middle class society totally opposed it, and they imposed Zolleverine. Zolleverine. What is Zolleverine? In 1833, Zolleverine is a new system which eradicated the different types of monetary exchange which was continued in Europe. Near about 30 monetary systems were abolished. 30 types of monetary systems were abolished, and taxes also were abolished. Different tariffs charges were also abolished through this system by the help of Zolleverine, by new middle class and liberals. So these two groups totally opposed themselves. But before it, there was no nation state before 18th century. But after, when the new middle class born, they wanted to establish their nation state in Europe, and thus the nationalism concept came into Europe. Our topic 3 is Age of Revolution. After the rise of nationalism in Europe and after the born of three kinds of societies in France, there were throughout the Europe there was a different kinds of revolutions occurred to get their own nation state. That means the nation state concepts was spread throughout the Europe after 1830 and 1815, when France, the new middle class society was emerged in France. What happened there? Idea of liberalism and nationalism. Liberal means, we have already told that the new middle class societies were called liberals. They wanted their liberty. Okay, that is liberalism. And nationalism, because they wanted their own nations. So this concept was spread throughout Europe. July Revolution in France. After the Battle of Waterloo, when Napoleon defeated, in 1829, when the administrations of two main governments and under the leadership of the basic aristocrat community, it was going on, then July Revolution was occurred by France and labor community people, lower class people, to establish, to restore themselves, and they totally eradicated Bourbon dynasty from France. They overthrown Bourbon dynasty from France through this revolution. If you are asked what is the effect of July Revolution, that means Bourbon dynasty was totally overthrown from France. Bourbon dynasty crossed, that means Bourbon dynasty was overthrown. And not only France but also throughout the Europe, like the country like Greeks, Belgium, there was also revolutions occurred. And in Greek, with the Treaty of Constantinople in 1832, Greek published itself as an independent state. Greek published itself as an independent state with the Treaty of Constantinople in 1832. And Belgium revolution also occurred in Brussels in 1832, through which Belgium also restored its power, and they also set up a foot towards the new nation, towards the nationalism. This is the basic concept. Now, if you read these three topics and these two topics carefully from your NCERT CBSE books, then I hope you will understand these things clearly. And if you have any question, then comment to my comment box and otherwise. Thank you.